up, guys? So, welcome to another episode of The Jungle. I am very thankful to have my buddy George on here. And I want to get into something real quick because George is not my buddy's name. A lot of you that are watching this, maybe on YouTube, are going to see that his face is blacked out. And the reason for that is he's asked to stay anonymous. So, I want everybody to know that watches this or listens to this that I totally respect everybody's anonymity. I want the truth as far as what goes on in certain facilities, what goes on throughout the system, so on and so forth. So if somebody's not comfortable about coming on the show because you think I'm going to put you on blast or you're going to be on blast for whatever happens, that's not the case at all. So basically, I'm going to get into. George has been a friend of mine since I was literally straight out of high school. We worked at the same company for a while, and we ended up becoming friends, and we got into some shit kind of off and on together. I lost contact with him for a long time, but we ended up catching back up, linking back up down the road through actually the criminal justice system in a way. We were both basically put in the same facility. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce my good friend George. And so, George, I want to ask you first and foremost, who are you? Like, what? I don't know a lot of the backstory as far as who you were when you were a kid, what kind of life you had growing up, because you and I were just we met while we were both kind of in the fast life. So, as you know, those conversations don't really happen when you're out there living that life. So tell everybody kind of who you were growing up, what your life was like growing up, and we'll go from there.
My childhood was typical in my mind. I had both my parents. Now, my father isn't my real dad. I never had the pleasure to meet the real one. He wasn't worth my time. So I guess that's just how it goes. Mom and dad were normal. They taught me right from wrong. They taught me how to, stand on both of my feet and get through the day like a man. And that was a great foundation. But I also learned at a young age that if I just paid attention to everything I seen as a child, I would figure a lot of things out without having to ask questions. So when I was about 12, I knew I was going to get into selling some type of drugs. I knew it was going to happen because of the environment that I was in. It was readily accessible. So that paved the way at a young age for my life to be on the course that it was on for a long time. I really maintained a normal life and a normal respect about myself. Everybody knew I was a decent person. I wasn't doing people wrong or anything, but I was selling drugs behind everyone's back. The type of guy walking to church Sunday and act like he doesn't do anything wrong. That was me. And I thought I had it all figured out. I had everybody fooled. I had a means to get what I needed and a means to turn it into money. And I decided to do that. And I wasn't going to stop until someone made me. And that someone would have to be the police. Nobody else was going to tell me what I can or can't do. And I even set like a plan with it, Chris. I was going to do 15 years, make as much money off the books as I could, and then take that money and legitimize it somehow. And that plan almost came through, except for the police. They stepped in. They got me on, cocaine charges. I pled it out to possession, and that ended up being my first number. So from 12, and then take that money and legitimize it somehow. And that plan almost came through, except for the police. They stepped in. They got me on, cocaine charges. I pled it out to possession, and that ended up being my first number. So from 12 years old to 26, I believe, 27, something like that. What year was we at that place together?
So I was that was straight out of high school. So I was 19. So that would have been 2002 maybe, roughly.
The other place was that when we met back
we linked back up. That would have been Shit, that would have been 2000 and again, I'm hitting 10 years coming home without any charges, so that's 2013.
Yeah. And then take that money and legitimize it somehow. And that plan almost came through, except for the police. You know, they stepped in, they got me on cocaine charges. I pled it out to possession, and that ended up being my first number. So from 12 years old to 26, I believe, 27, something like that. I don't know, what year was we at that place together?
So I
27, something like that. I don't know, what year was we at that place together?
so I was that was straight out of high school. So I was what 19. So I would have been that would have been 2002 maybe roughly.
The other place was that when we met back.
Where we okay, we linked back up. That would have been shit. That would have been 2000 and again, I'm hitting 10 years coming home without any charges, so that's 2013.
Yeah. So when I seen you there, that was the beginning of I need to do something different, but I don't want to because it was a downhill spiral from there, really. But from the age of 12 to 27, I believe I was, I thought it was going to be the easiest thing I ever did as an adult was make as much money as fast as I could and then sit on it and spend it.
Well, that's super funny you say that because you're one of those people like throughout all of my endeavors, we'll call them. I remember there was a handful of guys that I ever remembered running into or having dealings with that were actually stacking money because I was into selling shit, but I wasn't into it, I will say, on the level that you and some of these other guys were. You know what I mean? And so I remember you being one of the guys where like it was just you had things, you had a nice house, you had, you know what I mean? It was enticing for me to see like that's kind of what you were doing. And again, thinking like that's I want that, you know what I mean? But yeah, I remember that, and you were always stacking your money, and you were always it was just you were one of those guys that I shouldn't have looked up to, but I'm going to say I did in a way look up to.
And I would have never told you to do that, Chris, because
I know you wouldn't have. I know you wouldn't.
I'm always smart enough to know that not everybody's going to be able to pull this off, and don't pull anybody into your bullshit.
But I will say I do remember you being very secretive about your movements. That you were never a talker. You were never and that was you know what I mean. That was obviously the way to do it. But I remember I very clearly remember because like I said, there were you and there were a handful of guys that I was kind of picking up little things on. You know, that's how you move. That's how you do things. You stack your money. You do your thing. But so
you and the other kid that we worked with at that place.
Yeah,
the owner's son.
Yeah,
you two actually come to my house with Josh, I believe it was.
Probably. Yeah,
and that dude actually made me take a step forward into a different line of product that I wasn't ready for, but I knew I had to do it, and it was all because of him, because of what he started taking from me. So meeting you and meeting the other kid. It actually laid out a plan that was falling together quite nicely because of your buddy.
Yeah. So, okay. So I don't want to glamorize any of this. That's kind of fucking stupid that we sit here and like still have, I mean, war stories are important, but obviously it got us where it got us. So, so let me ask you a quick question. Dad wasn't in the picture. Mom wasn't really in the picture. Tell me a little bit about.
My stepdad, I mean, he's my dad. He adopted me when I was 2. My brother was 5, and that's the way it's been. But when you have a stepfather or a step-parent and you're a young child, you don't think of that no blood relationship. That doesn't come into play. You don't realize that till later on in life. But he always made sure that I knew he was my dad. And when I knew that this is the guy I'm going to follow, that's what I did. And man, we have had some conversations as an adult now about how he wishes I wouldn't have followed some of the things that he was doing. But
So he was kind of an influencer. I mean, of the front.
yeah, he would never put anything in front of my face. The man has smoked weed for 50 years probably. And I was 21 before I ever seen him actually smoke it. You know, that's where I got it from, the being quiet, hiding things and whatnot. But I had to watch the man because I was scared to ask him questions about certain things. So I learned everything with my eyes. And he really is the guy who got it all started. He doesn't know, but I would take at least, $400 or $500 worth of product every other day, and he would never notice. And that was how it started, because that was how it funded what I did when I stepped away from him. And I've told him that story too, and he don't want to talk about it because he feels somewhat responsible, because I grew up in an atmosphere where it was kind of acceptable to make a little extra money on the side.
Yeah. But, okay, so
it was a great game. It was.
So Ryan, kind of dive into details. I mean, I know we met back up around 2013. Give me some sort of a timeline and give everybody a timeline as far as. So I saw you in 2013. You said that was kind of the end of it, or that was kind of the beginning of you going.
That was when the drugs took over me. Was right around the time I left that place that you and I were together. When I left there, my whole mission was to fail a drug test, to go to prison, to get away from the probation and the charges. I wanted to get it behind me. So I got out of that place that you and I were in about 2 weeks, and I smoked some weed. I knew they were going to test me, and that was my last chance. And I went and served that number. So I got out right after 2009. So I did all of 08 locked up. I did half of it, I believe, was with you, or was it 07? But I did half of it with you at that place, and then I left there and went to Lake Erie and finished the case out. And when I got out of there, my mind was right back where it was before I got there, because that's the only thing I knew I could do and get what I needed quickly. That was the fact behind it. I can go punch a time clock, but the money's not going to come fast enough. I need it quicker because I need to be on my feet. And that's exactly what I did. I put my hands on everything that I could make $1 off of. And I even got into other different criminal avenues to make money. But primarily it was drugs. I always had a good connection, and the guy would hand me whatever, if I didn't have the money or not. And it was always so enticing. It was harder to get away from that situation than it was to get away from the actual doing of the drugs. Because always, like everyone else, need money. I was young, I had a family, and I always went right into it. So when I finished that number, I think I made it 4 years, 3.5, and I was sitting right back. And this time they sentenced me to 3.5 to 7. All right. And I did 3.5 of it. And then I had like a 3-year tail, which to me was another sentence. I may as well do more time. Well, I got lucky, managed to pull my criminal acts off slick enough to not get caught this time, and made the money I needed to, and went to rehab and left where I grew up and haven't went back. I had to change everything about myself and what I did with myself. So I just left everybody and started over.
Okay. I got something going on with my audio, dude. Give me 1 second. I did this shit. I don't know what's happening. Okay. So you started over. Tell me what your actual charges were, if you don't mind.
For the first number?
For all of them combined.
Okay, the first number was possession of cocaine with intent, and I pled out to just possession. That was the first time I had ever gotten arrested for anything. At that point, I thought I was going to make it and never get arrested. But once that happened, I got arrested all the time. The second number was interstate trafficking of over 100 pounds, which was a lie. they trumped up the charges because that's what they do when they get somebody who's got a decent amount of something and they don't have anything to say. They want to stroke you. So I just let them do it. And they tried and tried to get me to work with them and whatnot. And I kept telling them as I'm handcuffed to a hospital bed, if I had somebody that I could tell you about to get me out of this, I would have already told you, because you're dealing with the smallest fish in the pond right here, the guy you're talking to. Everybody above me, half of them are fucking politicians. Shit, you might be getting your paycheck signed by one of them. Who knows?
You know what's fucking wild about that is so one of my charges were I got into falsification of drug documents. That was my very first felony that I ever caught. And I remember how shady the drug task force was, because they never actually got me on any of the shit that I ever passed. What they got me on was, and I'll say his fucking name on here, Mike Rhodes. He's part of the Portage County Drug Task Force. And Mike, if you fucking see this, I could give a shit less. You know you were fucking wrong, and you know you fucked me. But Mike and I talk to this day. Like my daughter like helps out with his kid in school and like all kinds of other shit. You know what it is? He's got a job to do, and I was what I thought doing my job. But I will say, I'm glad you brought that up, because the law enforcement side of things, when you get into charges like this, is so fucking corrupt and people don't understand it. They literally went with the script that they caught me with. They literally took my fucking signature from my driver's license and photocopied it to a fucking prescription pad. So and showed up at my doorstep. And it's like, and I'm like, I was laughing at him. I'm like, you guys are high as fuck. I was like, I'm high as fuck, but you guys are seriously high as fuck right now.
Listen, you need to share what you guys got so I can get as dumb as you guys are.
Right. And I remember sitting back thinking, and I had to fucking plead to it, because I remember my lawyer was involved, and he's fucking coming to bail me out of jail. And he's like, look, and I'm fucking pissed. I'm like, I didn't fucking do this shit. Like, yeah, I did some shit, but I didn't do. And I remember to this day. And like I said, like, I'm friends with a ton of cops now. I'm friends with a lot of the guys from the drug task force. Not that I'm out there working with them, because I've been out of the game for fucking 10 years, but it's one of those, it's a respect thing at this point. I've gotten my shit together. They're active in the community. It is what it is. But
you also always got to let them know that it's time to look somewhere else, guys. Go, go be nosy somewhere else. This guy ain't messing around no more.
Yeah.
I'll see you. We'll be nice.
Well, yeah. We're friends on social media. You see, I post all my shit. And it's not a false sense of happiness. It is literally, I was so far in the fucking gutter. I throw all my shit out there now, because I'm like, I want everybody to know that I'm on the up and up. I want everybody to know that I'm doing fucking well these days. You know what I mean?
Anybody who knew you from 20 years ago and just looks at you today, Chris, you can see the change in you. You don't even look like the same man. You know?
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. But okay, so you got interstate trafficking charges, which is what led you to the infamous Rykers Island, correct?
Yeah, and that was I don't believe in God, but there was somebody telling me when that happened that you need to learn from this experience and make it your last if you make it through it. And man, I wish I would have had somebody that could have coached me at least for an hour on what to expect when I got in that place. Rykers Island is the worst, most horrifying place I've ever been. It's the only time as a man in my life that I have legitimately been scared to literally just walk 10 feet around these other men. The first week, like day 8, I had finally gotten some coffee. I'm on the 3rd tier, and Rykers is a big triangle, and there's 4 tiers, 5 tiers. I think they have the 5th one closed at this time when I was there. And I lean over the rail, and I take a sip of my coffee, and I look to my left, and I feel a gush of wind on my right side. And I look, and then I hear a noise, and then I look down, and the man just got thrown off the mezzanine above me, flew down past me, and I look down. His leg is next to his head, and he was dead as a doornail. And that was like day 8, and that was the beginning of
Jesus, dude,
complete life-changing experience. And just in that place for 9.5 months, I was in Rykers Island before I got sent to my parents.
So, okay, so I did some research on Rikers, obviously, and I just want to go through a couple things real quick. So, for those of you that don't know, Rikers Island is literally the processing facility for all of New York City. Anything that happens in New York City, these guys, there, you got guys awaiting trial, you have guys serving short sentences, so on and so forth. It is 55% black, 34% Hispanic. Then the whites, I don't know what the white was. It wasn't listed on the thing, but I would assume you were the minority.
18% Chinese population too.
Okay.
Every prison in the state of New York has an 18% or greater Chinese population. And we'll get to all that, why I know that.
So, a couple things that like really struck out. So I watched a couple documentaries, one of which was like a 60 Minutes documentary, and they highlighted on Bradley Ballard, which Bradley Ballard was a schizophrenic who was in there awaiting trial, and he was left in his cells. And this seems to be a common denominator with Rikers is the second you act out of line or the second you, and this is honestly, this happens in other prisons because it happened at Lake Erie. I saw it happen in Portage County Jail. When you play the fuck out of crazy or step out of line, a lot of these places will just throw you in a cell and forget about you until they actually need to make contact with you. They left this guy in his cell for 7 days. Basically, he was diabetic, deprived of his diabetes medication. He was begging them to get him out, so on and so forth, give him his. And you're by law, you're supposed to have at least 1 hour out a day. But they shut off his plumbing to his cell. By the 6th day, they finally found him laying in his own waste, hadn't had his diabetic medication in 7 days, went into cardiac arrest. And this was when the med team finally came in. They finally came in, said, it's not humane what you're doing to this man. They pulled him out. He died of cardiac arrest 2 hours later. And this seems to be like the ongoing thing. Like there was 3 or 4 other stories down there where this is what happens in Rikers. And I saw it happen at Lake Erie, and we're talking a totally different level facility and everything.
So Rikers, I had to learn quickly, just don't pay attention to anything that didn't involve me.
Even if that's rule number one.
I have to make sure nobody sees me even looking that way because I don't want to be involved. Because them CEOs at that place, they didn't have an elevator. They had a back stairwell that they only used when you fucked up. And there's, all right, we're taking you to the hole or taking you to solitary, and they take you to them back steps. Most likely, you're going to get there in a stretcher because they're taking you down them stairs, man. And
and that was one of the other things that was highlighted in all the videos. So the governor and the secretary of I think it was like the United States Secretary of something or other, they literally just put a mandate in because the violence from COs. The violence involving COs with inmates at Rikers was so bad, and they were catching so many videos that were going off onto put on the internet and putting them on blast. The governor literally had to enforce a new mandate where now they encourage the guards to like play basketball with the inmates and have like one-on-one contact and do shit. And I can guarantee it's all ops. It's all optics.
That is a business move, is what that is, Chris.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's all optics. But I thought it was interesting because literally as soon as I typed in Rykers Island, I'm just seeing inmates getting smashed by COs, dude. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on over here? Like,
yeah, that whole time I was there, I think I might have had 3 conversations with 3 different men. I would not speak to anybody, and I sure as hell wouldn't talk to the COs. I had so much legal paperwork that I needed to get straightened around. And the first person you got to go to
research on Rikers, obviously. And I just want to go through a couple things real quick. So for those of you that don't know, Rykers Island is literally the processing facility for all of New York City. Anything that happens in New York City, these guys, you got guys awaiting trial, you have guys serving short sentences, so on and so forth. It is 55% black, 34% Hispanic. Then the whites, I don't know what the white was. It wasn't listed on the thing, but I would assume you were the minority.
18% Chinese population too.
Okay.
Every prison in the state of New York has an 18% or greater Chinese population. And we'll get to all that, why I know that.
So a couple things that like really struck out. So I watched a couple documentaries, one of which was like a 60 Minutes documentary, and they highlighted on Bradley Ballard, which Bradley Ballard was a schizophrenic who was in there awaiting trial, and he was left in his cells. And this seems to be a common denominator with Rikers is the second you act out of line, or the second you, and this is honestly, this happens in other prisons because it happened at Lake Erie. I saw it happen in Portage County Jail. When you play the fuck out of crazy or step out of line, a lot of these places will just throw you in a cell and forget about you until they actually need to make contact with you. They left this guy in his cell for 7 days. Basically, he was diabetic, deprived of his diabetes medication. He was begging them to get him out, so on and so forth, give him his. And by law, you're supposed to have at least 1 hour out a day. But they shut off his plumbing to his cell. By the 6th day, they finally found him laying in his own waste, hadn't had his diabetic medication in 7 days, went into cardiac arrest. And this was when the med team finally came in. They finally came in, said, it's not humane what you're doing to this man. They pulled him out. He died of cardiac arrest 2 hours later. And this seems to be like the ongoing thing. Like there was 3 or 4 other stories down there where this is what happens in Rikers. And I saw it happen in Lake Erie, and we're talking a totally different level facility and everything.
So Rikers, I had to learn quickly to not pay attention to anything that didn't involve me. Even if that's rule number 1. I have to make sure nobody sees me even looking that way, because I don't want to be involved. Because them CEOs at that place, they didn't have an elevator. They had a back stairwell that they only used when you fucked up. And there's, all right, we're taking you to the hole or taking you to solitary, and they take you to them back steps. Most likely, you're going to get there in a stretcher because they're taking you down them stairs, man. And
and that was one of the other things that was highlighted in all the videos. So the governor and the secretary of I think it was like the United States Secretary of something or other, they literally just put a mandate in because the violence from COs. The violence involving COs with inmates at Rikers was so bad, and they were catching so many videos that were going off onto put on the internet and putting them on blast. The governor literally had to enforce a new mandate where now they encourage the guards to like play basketball with the inmates and have like one-on-one contact and do shit. And I can guarantee it's all ops. It's all optics.
That is a business move, is what that is, Chris.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's all optics. But I thought it was interesting because literally as soon as I typed in Rykers Island, I'm just seeing inmates getting smashed by COs, dude. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on over here? Like,
yeah, that whole time I was there, I think I might have had 3 conversations with 3 different men. I would not speak to anybody, and I sure as hell wouldn't talk to the COs. I had so much legal paperwork that I needed to get straightened around. And the first person you got to go to get that done in a place like that is a CO.
Yeah.
And you got to find the right one, because none of them are going to tell you the truth. They're all going to lie to you because they don't care about you, and they don't have to. But it's the aura that some of them CEOs bring with them to work. It's got a lot to do with why some of the things happen inside prisons between inmates and CEOs.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and I have seen it, the CEO may deserve what he's got coming to him. But 1 out of 3 of them in any institution is crooked, and he'll be in your pocket or you'll be in his pocket if you know how to conduct yourself. And that's the worst thing. You're going to lock a man up with a bunch of other criminals, and then you're going to do criminal acts with the people who are supposed to keep you in line. That is a flaw in the system. Prison is not for rehabilitation. It is for money. If it's not a state-owned prison, it's just a business. That's all it is. That's why when you and I were in that place together, those years, they were locking people up for things that they won't even really give you much more than a year of probation for today, because it was a business, and every time somebody passed through it, they got money. And that's how it was.
And I'll be honest, that's one of my main reasons for doing this podcast. Is one of my biggest pet peeves is the whole prison for profit ideas, like ideologies. The spot that you and I were in, it was 100% like it's public record that the judges that were sentencing people literally owned stakes in that facility.
And so it was the biggest joke too. The place was horrible.
And what was even crazy is that was supposed to be a in lieu of facility, and I got sent there after prison. Like
Uh-huh.
I should have never even been through there, coming home and touching down on the street and being in that facility. But it was
That's how
money.
they reintegrated you, was to send you there, right? Instead of a
Yeah,
halfway house. Uh-huh.
yeah,
Yeah,
basically,
because they didn't get no money if you went to the halfway house.
right.
That
And
judge
then
out there in that county.
and then you have my other big like niche on this show is Lake Erie when I was down there. And honestly, I think it would have been when you were down there too, because were you down there when CCA was it MCC or CCA that was running the facility when you were down there?
That was right after I left, I believe that happened. But when I was there, it was still a gladiator school for the most part.
Oh yeah, that's I've had two other guys on from Lake Erie, and that's the general consensus. It's not a gladiator school like Rykers was, but I mean, for a level 2 facility, the shit was wild.
Yeah. Yep. And it had been there long enough that all walks of life that were in the system could be there. If you had a sentence, you could end up there, and a lot of them did. And that's something.
I had lifers on my street. Yeah.
Yep.
But no, I remember CCA took over, and it was this big. And again, I've said it in every one of my episodes. You can go to my links page. There's the ACLU actually did a video on prisons for profit, because CCA and Lake Erie was the first one. It was the first for-profit state prison. CCA actually ran a bunch of other federal facilities, but they had never gotten their hands dirty with the state-run facilities, and they fucking dropped the ball big time. But the link's on the website. You can go on there and check it out if you want to watch
Who
it.
did you say the guy's name was?
Who?
The CO you said you talked to? What was the last name? Did you say Majorie?
Oh, I didn't say a CO.
Oh, I thought you. I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. I misunderstood you. I thought you said you had did a podcast with a CO.
No, so I'm going to, but he's out of Lorraine.
Out of Lorraine?
Yeah. And we go to the gym together. He's a good dude. Like he works a lot in the psych unit, and he's kind of hesitant about coming on. But yeah, he's kind of said he would come on, but yeah, we'll get to that.
You need to encourage him to come on and to be honest about it. I mean, really,
so it's still his job. I still can't like have him incriminate anything, but I will tell you the conversations that him and I have had will probably not be in depth to the point, or the show won't be in depth to the point of the conversations him and I have had, because he is frustrated. He is fed up in every aspect as well, because his hands are tied in a lot of aspects. But he's also not one of those COs. I can vouch for this guy left and right. He's not one of those COs that are going in there and being a problem. You know what I mean? He's not part of the problem. Dude's got a good heart. He's always been a good dude. So, okay, so you're in Rykers. Tell me, do you have any, like, I mean, obviously the guy getting tossed over the balcony, that's a pretty wild story. What else did you see while you were in there?
Well, when that happened, I pulled my own whole card when that happened. All right. Because I knew right then I was completely out of my element. I'm a skinny white guy from northeastern Ohio, come from a town with about 2,500 people in it. I am definitely a fish out of water. So I had to do that time there like a scared man should have. I came out of my cell when I had to. When they would click the gate open, I'd go out, look over the railing and whatnot, and I would just watch the cliques and the gangs, the Mexicans, the Puerto Ricans, Chinese, the black, and I would just see what they were up to, because I had nothing else to do but look around. I didn't want to get involved with anybody in there. I didn't want to make any kind of acquaintance, because it was not going to last, right? I'm only going to be there for a short period. And when they sent me to my parent, Collins State Penitentiary, and that's when I had to learn how to live for the next 2 years and 4 months after I left Rykers. And
so tell me about the change of atmosphere from Rykers to Collins.
I knew before it even happened it was going to be relieving, because I had been in prison in Ohio, and I knew how the atmosphere was and how the places are laid out and what to expect for the most part. Rykers, it messed me up. I still have issues today from it, just because of I wasn't ready for it. When I got to my parent, I felt relieved before I even got off the bus, and I was wrong. I was completely wrong about that. It was the change of scenery that made me think I was getting relief, and it was instantly, as soon as I came across the yard, game on. Look at this white dude. We're fucking with him, and I was literally fighting 20 feet out of the gate from intake to my dorm. It was horrible.
Yeah. So I will say so me personally, I didn't have a lot of issues in Lake Erie. I mean, yeah, I had the occasional scuffle, the occasional fight, but I mean, you know me, dude, I'm 6'6", 300 fucking pounds. Like
It's
that's
gonna take a special guy to pull his shot on you. You know,
so. But I want
to be drunk or really tough.
but I want to put into. I want to let everybody kind of understand that I saw a lot of, and you stay in your own lane. Like I've always been the guy that I'm going to help out those that are weaker, the guys that are getting picked on. I didn't play with any of that shit. I was in my lane. You stay in your lane, you do your own thing. But I saw so many.
You're going to take yourself home. And then
yeah, and I will tell you, white dudes get fucked with hard down the road, dude. Like we are the bottom of the food chain, and that's why you see a lot of these guys click up with like it's that offshoot of the Heartless Felons, and you see them click up with all these other gangs and the ABs and shit. And I totally understand. I don't knock anybody that does that because you have to be a part of a pack in some situations. Like you go down there,
get through it.
Yeah,
you got to find a way to survive.
So how bad was You said it's Collinsville. How bad was
Collins?
Okay, so how bad was Collins? Was it?
It was 3,800 inmates. Or was it 4,800? It was either 4,000 or 5,000 people in the place, but it was half the size of Lake Erie. They packed us all in there, and I didn't realize this. Lake Erie, it wasn't so much like this when the whites were the minority. There wasn't really that way when I was there. It was fairly even, blacks to whites and Hispanics and whatnot. When I got there, I realized quickly I am minority, and that's why these dudes are picking their shot so quickly, because I don't got my people. When I went to Erie, I knew 25 or 30 people there.
Yeah.
People I hadn't seen in years. I didn't even know where they were, and I ran into them in prison. I wasn't worried about anything there because it was so close to home. And I was completely nervous that I was going to get myself in a situation and they're trying to just have a backbone and stand on my own 2 feet that was going to get me killed, because I had to be somebody that a person needs to know they can be this way, but they should only use it if they have to. Well, I ended up having to use it for damn near 3 years. I had to be a completely disrespectful, loud, obnoxious, and show them all my shame. Like I had my shiv all the time. I would get caught with it at least once a month, and I let them all know I had it because I kept watching them, and they'll pick them out of the crowd. You'll watch it. Oh, that him. A day or two later, they're pushing up on them, and the dudes usually just say, "Hey, you can have whatever you want," type of thing. That's not me. I don't care where I'm at in life. If it's mine and you want to take it from me, well, you're going to know I was there at least. You know, I don't willingly give in to anything. I have my own values and my own beliefs, and I like to carry that wherever I'm at. So in there, I had to be like the guy that you would think, you know, Roadhouse, you know, Patrick Swayze. He goes in and he takes the shit out of everybody, right? So that's not the best interpretation, I guess, but that's kind of where my mental status was, is who do I gotta fuck up today so these people know they can't pull this off on me, you know, because they kept trying and they try to be slick about it. You got to see them coming. So it changed my life instantly to being somebody that I only want to be if I have to be, not every day. I don't want to be this fuck with me, I'll stab you guy. I don't want to be that. That's not who I am. And so a lot of them could see that's not who I was, but some of them fell for it, and it worked itself out. In about 6 or 8 months, I got put in a cell with a guy named Run Dim Fu. That was his name. He was 100% Chinese. I taught him most of the English that he knows, and I call him Run DMC. just because his name was Goofy, and that's what I wanted to call him. Ended up being one of the best people I've ever met in my life. I don't think today I should say he's one of the best people, but then, and up until about maybe 5-6 years after that prison number, he was a very good, loyal, legitimate friend. And I think he has been deceased now. Nobody knows where the man is, but I never once contacted anybody that I was in prison with unless I knew him before I went to prison. He was the only person that I took home from prison with. I made sure I contacted him and we stayed in touch for other reasons, but that man also taught me how to survive in that place. There was a 12%, actually, I think that place had a 10 or 11% Chinese population. And every one of them Chinese dudes were running the whole place. 12% of the population was controlling the masses of the people. Yeah. And the people are so dumb, they didn't even see it, couldn't figure it out. Yeah. I slept next to the guy, so I knew what was going on. But when I figured that out, I knew I would be fine. And I just had to keep my head down, play my cards for 5 hours a day, work out, eat as much food as I could, and listen to the same goddamn music over and over again. Yeah. There's nobody to send me.
That's so funny because I have a quick story. So when I went through Lorraine, I obviously my first time in prison had no idea what was going on, and I was because I'm a big white boy. I remember I was on tier 2. I think it was in 4 house or something. 20, Lorraine, it's 23 and 1. You're only out for chow. You're only out for shower. And this big fucking black dude walks in, yoked, just huge. And when I went to prison, I was fat, dude. I was fat. I was out of shape.
You were never fat. You were a husky guy, but you were big.
I was about 350 when I went in, but I'll never forget this guy. Like, he came in and he was just super legit from the start. And he told me, he's like, this is what you got to look out for. This, like, just super cool dude. Super. And I wish to this day, because he's the one that instilled the workout ethic, the stay in shape shit, you got to get your body together to get your mind right. And that motherfucker, on the second day that he was in my cell, had me in there doing push-ups, squats, everything. That's where it all started. You know what I mean? And he
had done that before, Chris. That man had been in that situation before.
Oh, he had told me. This was his second bit, or his third.
You were helping him do his time. You were giving him something to do, and he was able to pass time just by, educating you on how to do this in here.
Yeah, 100%. But I mean, the guy was always super. But you have to look at it from another standpoint of, I could have very easily been manipulated and taken advantage of in that situation as well. And so I always appreciated him. I wish I would have gotten his info when I left, but dude, it was my first time. I'm going through the motions. I'm
faking it till I make it.
What's that?
I said I'm faking it till I make it on the first time.
Faking it till I make it. And but no, I've always appreciated that man, and I wish I could have kept in contact with him, so on and so forth, because he always made this statement. He was like, your body, like you're a second-class citizen when you hit the street. So if you're put together, if you're in shape, if people look at you and they have that overall general first impression of, well, he's dedicated to working out, he obviously takes care of himself. He said a lot of places will look over the fact that you have a felony. And that's why I've continued to push so hard to be just in shape, work out all the time, and do my thing. But anyway, to get through all that, no, I wish I knew who the guy was. I wish I could thank him. But anyway, so you are. I want to talk real quick because I know this is a big thing. So you went to Collins. You were through Lake Erie. Let's talk real quick before we get into the come up about PTSD and about what you brought home with you and what still you kind of have flashbacks about to this day. Because I'll tell you, I mean, still to this day, I get in certain situations where that whole prison mentality kicks back in. Somebody calls me a bitch. Somebody calls me, you know what I mean? And I'm immediately like, oh, no, fuck it. Lace up the boots. Let's fucking go to work. You know what I mean?
Chris, I don't know how to even begin to explain what happened that made me start to think about living my life differently than the way I had been. I can't, and I've thought so many hours since then about what specific thing it was that made me change in my mind. And I believe that it was just the fact that I had had as much fun and did as much cool shit that I thought I was doing. And I was just all tapped out on it. I thought if I had any more excitement like that in my life, it was not going to be a very long life. And I was kind of the truth. Because when I got away from it, I thought that I was smart enough. Hey, I'm going to go touch it again one time. And that was 13 shots of Narcan just to get me conscious. And that is the turning point for everything in my past to stay there and to do things different in front of me. There's a lot in between today and that day. There was a lot. It was not the easiest thing I've ever done. Actually, I'm pretty sure it's the hardest thing I ever did. But it is the most rewarding, and the peace of mind that I get when I lay my head down at night or when I'm driving to work is one of gratitude. I am grateful for the fact that I was smart enough when I was doing the dumbest things possible to say, this is enough. We're going to do something different. And that choice was made on my closet floor at 4 o'clock in the morning. And I had a gun sitting on my lap. And the woman I was with at the time didn't even know I was in that closet, because it was either I got to find a way to change myself or it ain't going to work no more. We're going to get this over with. And I almost successfully did it. I was very close. And I'm just not, I guess I didn't think it through very well, but I never fucking loaded the gun. So it was a false attempt to just get it over with. And the woman I was with had no idea that was going on until she heard the click in the closet, right? And that's when I found out who she really was, because she said, hey, the bullets are in the kitchen. You want me to get them for you? And that was something. She was not a good person. And at that time, neither was I. And that's why we were together. But that was like, thank you for saying that to me, woman, because you just made things a little easier for me to go through with in my mind now. And I grabbed my wallet, my car keys, and I went to leave. And she had slashed the tires on my car. And I just looked at the car and I walked. And I walked for like, I don't know, 8 hours. It was in the morning when I did this. And do you know anybody in the probation? Do you know Vince Peterson? He was at that place that you and I was at. Now, his son, I believe, worked there.
Oh, yeah. And, yeah.
Now, his dad, I had been on probation with his dad a number of times. His dad we met when I was 16. He pulled me over. They thought I had somebody in the trunk of my car that they were looking for. And that day, that man said, he goes, I have a feeling I'm going to see a lot of you. And I hadn't seen him from the age of 16 until I'm walking through Champion, Ohio at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and a vehicle pulls up behind me, beeps the horn, and I turn around. I don't know who it is. I'm thinking it's one of my buddies, whatever. And it's U.S. Marshal, State Probation Officer, Vince Peterson. He knew my name, and he had only pulled me over one time. We had only met one time. He knew my name, and he knew what I was doing. All right. And this is the thing that never made sense to me. I don't know how that happened. I think he got lucky. All right. He might have remembered my face, but it was just so weird, Chris. That man saved my life. I told him, I said, listen, dude, I'm going to get in trouble. I'm going to catch a charge so that I can come see you every couple of weeks, because I have a feeling you're the type of guy that wants to help somebody who you know wants to help themselves. And I told him, I said, I need help and I don't know how to get it. And he goes, he gave me his card. And he said, call me. I'll see what I can do. He goes, but it would be a lot easier if you were in the criminal system at the meantime, because then I can make things happen for you. I've always been a guy that said, I'm not going to sit around and wait for this to happen. Let's go chase it down. So I went and got myself a charge. just so I could get locked up and get the case going. And I pled out on every guilty from day one. I want to hurry up and get this over with. And then went to Vince's office after my sentencing date and said, listen, they didn't tell me who my PO is yet, but it better be you. I never forgot what you said, and it's time to change. And they gave me Greg Carroll for probation officer. And I went in there and I said, I'm not talking to you. You can be my PO on paper, but this is the guy that I'm going to talk to when I come in here. And I looked at Mr. Peterson, and he's about your size.
Oh, I remember Vince. Yeah,
and,
I remember.
He goes, well, what do you want to do? I said, I want you to put me in jail. And then I want you to send me to a place that is nowhere close to here. Definitely not the one you've sent me to twice, or the courts have sent me to twice, because it don't work. You're going to have to find a place that works. Got a good success rate, and then you're going to send me there. You're going to come pick me up from jail, and you're going to take me there. I said, I don't want my feet touching the street in this town until I know who I am and I know how to conduct myself. Because I couldn't at that time. If I would have stayed there, game on. Same things would have happened.
So I want to stop you, real. I want to stop you and hold your thought, because I know anybody listening to this at this point is probably thinking they're thinking insanity. They're thinking it's fucking wild. Like this story's hard to believe. And to me, it's not. To me, it's not at all. But I think a lot of people don't understand and don't give enough insight to how low people get when they're actually at that point. Because I remember, dude, when I was burglarizing homes, I was booting doors in and everything else. The gentleman that caught me in his house, I literally just stopped. I said, hey, I'm not going to put my fucking hands on you. I said, don't touch me. I'm not going to put my hands on you. Mm-hmm. Broke down in fucking tears. And I've said that. I've told this story 100 times. I was not crying because I had gotten caught. I was crying because I, too, didn't have the balls to pull the trigger with a loaded gun. But I would load that fucking needle up every night and wish that it would be the last shot that I ever took. I prayed for death on a daily basis.
Make a cocktail if you have to, you know?
Yeah. And fucking, I don't think people really understand, like, how your mind just doesn't fucking process things correctly, and you don't think of things the right way, because that man caught me and I literally broke down in tears. And I won't say I was happy, but I broke down in tears because I was so fucking tired, dude. And I was just like, I'm ready. I need help. I don't know how to get help. Nothing. I've been to like 5 different rehabs. Nothing has helped. Like, and dude, the criminal justice system saved my life. And people might tell me I'm an idiot for it, but I will say I needed to go to prison. So, but yeah, man, I get it. That's it's a fucked up state of mind to be in.
Yeah. It's one of the situations that I constantly remind myself of. I reminisce on that like it was a good vacation or something, because I don't want to forget it. I don't want to forget the lengths that the drug took me to, and then what the drug made me do. I mean, Chris, there's so much from day one to, the last time I did something wrong that I'm not even putting in there, because if you were ever a drug addict, anybody who's listening, you can use your imagination and figure out I was a drug addict, and it was a direct result because I thought I was going to be a successful drug dealer. No such thing. And it ruined my entire life. Everything I had good, it took away. And when I got my life back, I didn't get some of that good stuff back. Some of it won't come back. And the education behind partying and doing drugs at a teenage level to a young adult, when most people are starting to experience and get into things, there needs to be an education process, because that decision can and most likely will change your entire fucking life. Oh, and they don't stress it enough with the kids in high school and college about, if you want to get hungry, that's fine. You can go ahead and experience whatever you feel. You're a human being, and it's your right to do what you want. But we're going to teach you how to do things so that you can be responsible, not die, not hurt others, and not become an addict. There has to be a responsibility level put in to an education behind people doing drugs, because, and I'm going to say it, our government is never going to stop them from coming into this country. the drugs. So we're going to have to learn how to educate people, to keep them safe, to keep them on track with the potential of their life and not get off track with what the drug's going to do to their life.
Well, and
Because
it's such a double-edged sword, dude. Because first of all, the government's in on half of it, but we're not going to get into shit like that because that's a whole other
we
topic.
get arrested.
But you're absolutely right, and I got to be honest. And I've said this for a while too. The overarching problem with the whole drugs is there's just a problem with, or there's a hole in America's heart. Like the people just don't, people are heartless anymore, dude. Like people don't feel important. People don't, they feel like their day-to-day activities are just worthless and they're lost. And that's, I guess, the word that I'm looking for is people just feel lost anymore, dude. Like and so to fill that void, people are medicating themselves. They're using alcohol, they're using drugs, and people don't understand once you start going down that road, it's just nothing but more and more problems. And nobody's gonna and nobody preaches that. Like it's unfortunately one of those lessons that you have to learn the hard way. So
there could be an easier way to learn. There could be.
Yeah.
So think about it this way, Chris. If you make $1 billion illegally, non-taxed, anybody, who knows about that money? Very few people. Okay. That's why the government plays off. We're going to put people in jail for doing drugs because once again, we're making more money off of that drug. We made money off getting it here. We made money off of the people doing it, committing crimes to get it. They're continuously making money, but the most they're making is the money that nobody knows about. So there's got to be a high up politician in some type of drug avenue that he never talks to nobody. He doesn't touch nothing, but he gets money because the shit is illegal. And people like illegal money, especially ones who are wealthy to begin with. If they got $1 million of non-tax money that the government don't know about, all kinds of things you can do, right? So what do you think the government does when they have a bunch of non-tax money that the government don't know about? Right. That's how they wiggle. They'll never stop. They never will.
No, I know. And that's just one of those topics that we can talk all day on. But so you're home. You're doing well for yourself. Tell me what you're doing now and tell me what your mindset is on a day-to-day basis. I mean, you kind of already touched on your mindset. Just tell me what you're doing now with your life. Tell me how, and touch on any issues that you've had since you've come home.
So I'm going to start just from when I came home the last time. It still took me a good 3, maybe 4 years to get it together. I didn't go back to being a drug addict. That was not it. But I really hadn't punched a time clock too much in my life after you and I had been at that place working. I started a business to hide money and to have an excuse to have money. And that's the only way I knew how to financially get ahead. It's the only thing I knew. So I got out and I had to go back into doing something that was illegal to get myself on my feet. And thank God that I didn't get caught doing that one, because we wouldn't be talking about any of this. But I managed to be smart enough and stay true to myself to get what I needed financially and get away from everything. And once that happened, I left where I was from and I came to where I live now. And I do everything completely different than I would have in the past. I don't involve myself in situations that are going to be harmful to anyone, let alone myself. The PTSD keeps me away from a lot of the atmospheres that would get me in trouble. Bars, big crowds of people, parties, concerts. I love them, but man, me and my wife just went to one and I haven't even told her yet, but it really had me bent just because there were so many people and I still haven't been able to get through that one. But I had to do my life over. I had to learn how to live it again. And I had to find an example to follow. And I found a couple of them. And that's the hardest thing to do quickly, is to find a good example, a shadow, to learn how to be a man.
Yeah.
Because the ones that I had followed throughout life They didn't teach me how to be a bad person, but they didn't teach me how to be the person I needed to be. And so I went to a complete stranger and said, hey, I need to learn how to live life again. Because the first time I did it, it didn't work out. It wasn't the right way. And I need somebody who is going to put me on that path and keep me there. I'm not going to say this guy's name. And that's what he did. That man called me every morning. And it was supposed to be my job to call him. But when I met him, he goes, call me tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. At 7:01, I'm not answering. He called me at 6:59. He said, you know what, kid? I'm going to call you every morning. I'm like, all right, make sure it's 8 o'clock instead of 6:59, dude. The relationship with that man and the very few words he would say to me a day, he would not rattle on about what you should do. He would tell you specifically what you should do. And that was it. Have a nice day. Click. It got to be so informal and like, we're not even friends. And we weren't. He told me that. He goes, we're not friends. I got a job to teach you how to be a man. That's all I'm doing. Once you're a man, I'm never going to talk to you again. Which is bullshit, because he died 3 months after he said I was a man. Fucked up. That guy, I mean, he laid it out. He was like, if you've done something before, just don't do it the way you did it before. Because the way you were doing shit before, it didn't work. Didn't work for nobody. And it's the hardest thing to do, to forget everything you knew and how you conducted yourself. And so today, I'm a father. I'm a husband. I have respect for people. I still have a line not to be crossed, just like every man should. But I am more maybe passive about everything. I let it come to me. And if it's worth my time, I'll deal with it. If it's not, I will politely keep on going. Any situation. I tell my bosses at work, if you're in a bad mood, just call me. I don't even want to see you. I don't want to talk to you because I don't need you fucking up my mojo. I need to keep it where it is. And that's the biggest thing I've learned too, is if you let other people in your space that don't need to be there, it's an interference and it sets you back.
The one thing that I have learned over the last 10 years is you have to have boundaries. That's first and foremost. Because in what we did, boundaries weren't a thing. Like you crossed every boundary that was ever put in front of you, just like I did. And
but don't cross mine back. You know, back then when we were doing that, I'll cross yours, but you're not.
Exactly. And that causes a lot of problems. But then the self-worth portion of it all comes into it too. Like once you're home and you're doing well for yourself, then you start to get that confidence, that self-worth back. You know what I mean? And you're like, well, like now I've got this going and I've got that going, and I'm not willing to degrade myself or throw myself back into that shit just because for a 5-minute high. You know what I mean? So between boundaries and self-worth, those have been two of the biggest things that have helped me throughout the way. And from what it sounds like, they've done the same for you. So what are you doing now then? Like you're home, you've been home for a minute. What's going on in your life?
I have my second wife. I have 2 daughters that they're not my children, but they're my girls. And if their old man ever shows up, it's going to be a bad choice for him to do that. That might be my last and final criminal charge if I have to meet this guy. He's not a good guy at all. And those girls are mine. And with that being said, when that happened in my life about 6 years ago, I devoted myself to the 3 women under my roof, my wife and the 2 girls. Now, I am not the easiest, softest person. When I care about you, I tell you the truth, and I tell you it in a way you don't want to hear it, because that's usually what solidifies in your head when somebody's trying to tell someone something that is simple. The kids, I'm sure you've been through, I've told you this 5 times in the past week. Why are you still doing it this way? Right? When I do that to my girls, I am like a drill sergeant, Chris, because I'm going to tell you one time the simple things in life are on you to figure out, because you are smart young women. The big things I'll help you with. I don't know how I got so lucky, dude. I don't, because I can't do anything wrong today, because I don't want to do anything wrong. And that makes life so easy for me to do the right thing. Once you know how to do the right thing, it just becomes a habit and a ritual like everything else. And then you start to get benefits from it. Doing the right thing and you see what it brings to you. That's the benefit from it.
And I have and I have to note on it's the peace of mind that comes with it too. Like the peace that I have now is unparalleled to anything that I've ever had in the past. And the older I get and the more I learn how to navigate as a functioning member of society and I'm not out doing stupid shit, I can lay my head on my pillow at night and I'm always doing the next best thing. I'm always doing what in my opinion is right. And so morally, and as far as my morals are concerned, if I'm doing whatever I feel is right, like at my core, I can lay my head on my pillow at night and I sleep like a baby now. I'm not looking for marshals outside of my window.
You need no Xanax or nothing. You got that.
I don't need Xanax. Hey, you know what's funny? My wife takes sleeping. My wife takes the little like melatonin things. I don't even take those anymore. I go to sleep. She's like, I don't understand how you can fall asleep within 5 minutes of your head hitting that pillow. And I said, I still have a lot of shit that I deal with internally. I still have issues. Everybody has issues. But compared to what my issues were 10, 15, 20 years ago, I can go to sleep on like that nowadays. And it's just,
there's a luxury of being sober and getting away from the narcotics. Because I didn't do much sleeping for a long time, man.
No.
I'm still not the best sleeper, but I agree with you 100%. When I do lay down and I fall asleep, it is pure and natural. And I'm not thinking about what I did that I shouldn't have did.
Yep.
Or what I'm going to go do that I shouldn't do.
Absolutely.
And that takes away so much stress in your life. And then it opens up so much space in your mind for good things.
Yeah, man.
I wish I would have never took the road I did. I really don't. There were some events and experiences that I would not trade for the world, but it completely, it fucked my life up. When I thought I had it all under control and I was off on the right foot, I was completely wrong.
But I also have to tell you, I mean, I respect where you're coming from. And there are days where I'm like, it did fuck my life up. But I have to say, me personally, and this is me, I understand I'm not you, and this is my take on everything. I am personally thankful for everything that I went through because it has taught me so much in life. It's taught me so much about myself. It's taught me so much things that I don't think I would ever learned about myself had I just worked the 9 to 5, gone to college, done all that. I mean, maybe I would have. I don't know what my life would have been had I not gone down this road, but I am not regretful or remorseful for, yes, I hurt people. I hate that I hurt my family. I hate that I hurt other people. You know what I mean? That part I regret. But as far as what I went through, I personally, I took it as a lesson. I learned from it, and I don't mind that I went through it.
Yeah, I was thinking about maybe getting into writing, like maybe a book. I'm not that guy at all. My wife is that woman, though. She's everything about books. And I don't know. I was thinking about it, like from day one.
Do it.
To where I
would encourage you to do it.
Yeah. And then put all the stuff in there that I have left out. Because the things I did to get back on my feet that I didn't get in trouble for, I can say today what it was. Statute of limitations is up. But I went through over like 1.2 million in other people's money from the internet and credit cards and gift cards and a reverse swiper, and legitimately probably supplied China with American baby formula for at least a year and a half. And that is not a joke. We would send it out in shipping containers full of Enfamil baby formula from the floor to the ceiling. 3 a month would go to China. China will buy American baby formula for 3 times the value at the price on the Walmart shelf on the street in China. Over there, they don't have the standards on what goes in that stuff. There's bad things in there for their kids because they don't want people in China. They don't want no more people. They want to lessen the people, right?
Yeah.
So they don't put the standards on food and things like that, especially for the children. So that made that stuff a black market. All right. And it was like selling drugs, and it was baby formula. And I was buying all of it on other people's money. That's the Chinese guy, Run DMC. That's where that came from. But it was the most, I felt horrible after I got into it, because I don't know whose money it is, and I don't know where they're getting it from. But I know it was somebody's, and I might have just ruined somebody's week, month. I might have just took some kid's birthday away. I don't know. But once that started compiling on a new mind that wasn't just completely hied up with drugs all the time, I had a conscience.
Yeah.
And that still haunts me today. The thing I did to get myself away from everything that I wanted to be away from, it still haunts me all the time, because I had a clear mind when I did it. And my conscience, it took over. But long story short, I did it, and I didn't get caught. We found a way to use the reverse swiper. If you take your credit card, debit card into the bodega and buy a pack of cigarettes and swipe your card, and I got my little memory stick plugged in, I just got your information.
Right.
And every gift card that you buy, if it's a $10 gift card or a $1,000 gift card, they say reloadable, transferable. I can take your money, put it on that gift card, walk into any Walmart in this country, and spend until it dies. Okay, and it's a gift card. So the cashier, they don't know what to think. It's a gift card. They look at it. It's got your debit card information on it. And the Chinese guys that was their thing. And they looked at me like, man, nobody would expect you to do something wrong. Why don't you drive around and go buy baby formula? So that's what I did. I had to stay in New York for a year before they would transfer my parole. That whole year, I think I slept in my apartment twice. I was on the road with a van, U-Haul boxes, and when the van was full, I'd go back to the city, I'd go back out, drop it off. Then I got into buying cigarettes with them, anything anybody wanted, 50 cents on the dollar, because I'm not paying anything for it. And that's how I made the money I had to be a criminal to get righteous one more time. And I made a promise to my mother that when I'm done, Mom, then I'm done. When I come back home, it's going to be different. We ain't doing this no more. And that's the only promise I have kept so far to anybody I've ever really made a promise to, man. And so changing my life might be the only good thing I ever do. And I'm going to make sure that somebody knows it. Somebody's got to know the one good thing I did, because everybody knows all the other stuff.
Well, but I mean, I also, so you're in the Teamsters now, though. So I mean, you're working a full-time job. You're doing you know what I mean? It's not, you're back on the path to recovery and everything else. So I think you're kind of selling yourself short here, dude.
Well, no. I don't want to toot my own horn, because I don't need no ego. I don't need to be, oh, look what I did. I ain't did shit, Chris. I fucked up is what I did.
I understand that, but
what I'm doing today is what every other normal American is doing. I was late to the game. All right.
Yeah,
I was behind
okay.
the game.
I can see where you're coming from.
So I'll tell people my stories. And if I meet somebody that I don't know within 10 minutes, hey, you ever been to prison? You ever live on the other side of the fence? Because if you haven't, we're not on the same level. Because everything I relate my life to is from being a criminal. And that's how I learned just damn near everything about being outside of your home was being a criminal. I learned how to handle people. I learned how to get into a situation and get out of it. It brings things to your life that if you keep them with you and learn how to use them, they become advantages to a normal person. I think everybody needs a little taste of the streets when they're young. It teaches you about yourself that you need to carry on through your adult life, I don't know, Chris, there's many different ways we can spin on how you need to go about your life and what you should do or shouldn't do. But I think it's a process that everybody has to go through with just enough knowledge to get into it, but not to get through it.
Yeah.
I think there's some things that we need to learn on our own, because it's going to tell us who we are. And you ain't shit until you know who you are.
Oh, absolutely.
You can have it all, but if you don't know who you are, you're lost.
Yeah. So, okay, with all that being said, what advice would you give to anybody right now that is out there conducting themselves inappropriately. What is there anything else you want to discuss, like the PTSD issue, or what's on your
Yeah,
mind?
we'll do the PTSD first. So the PTSD is new to me now. I just actually went to a doctor within the past 2 years to find out what my deal was, you know.
Yeah,
And I thought I was just a little fried. And I had always been the type of person that I don't trust nobody, and I'm going to keep everyone in front of me until I know who they are. I don't trust no one behind me. And that was just a natural way I was. But when I went through what I had put myself through, some of the situations took me from being the life of the party, the guy who will talk to everybody and hang out and get along with, to walking into a crowded restaurant and asking for a table so that my back is against the wall. I'm not sitting down. I'm not standing anywhere unless my back is against the wall, unless I'm in an empty room. That's how it goes. It drives my wife nuts. I don't explain to my wife half of the things that bother me from the PTSD, but it is all due to putting myself in a place with thousands of people that I don't know. And if I don't know anybody, I got nothing. I got nobody I can trust, nobody I can talk to. And if I don't know you, I'm not really trying to talk to you in that environment. And it mentally took my social skills with strangers, people that you would just meet instantly. I don't act well with it. I come off like very short and very, I don't care, answer my question so we can get away from each other type of thing. And it's a hard thing because I've chased a couple of good people away by having that wall, because I don't like people I don't know too close to me until I know them. It's seeing people getting thrown over mezzanines, getting stabbed for breakfast, shower hustles and all that stuff, dude. You see it and you want to forget about it. But when you repeatedly see it, you can't forget it. And I still wake up today with oh yeah, that was a dream. Thank God,
Yeah. Well, I'll still tell you. I mean, I keep my circle very, very small. I literally have I would say 4, maybe 5 guys that I am just comfortable with having a conversation, like a meaningful conversation with. Not going out. There's maybe another 4 or 5 guys that I'm comfortable with, like going out in public with, and I know if shit were to hit the fan, like those are my guys. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people don't understand that once you're in an environment like that, you really can't trust anybody. People have to literally show you who they are at their core on almost a animalistic level, because that's when you're in there, that's what you're on. It's the food chain. There's a pecking order. It's animalistic. There's packs. There's everything else.
And that environment will force you into one of them or another.
And so
you have no intentions of doing that or being that, but it'll make it happen.
Yeah, and you get into that mindset. I can't say that it was the worst thing that ever happened to me coming home with that mindset and that mentality, because at this point I trust who I need to trust. I keep eyes on people that maybe shouldn't be trusted. You know what I mean? It taught me a lot, man. But there's also times where I sit with my wife and I'm like, she's got a great group of girlfriends that she went to college with. They take trips. They go out for girls' nights. And there's nights where I sit on the couch upstairs and I'm like, I don't have friends to call to go out. And it's not because I'm not personable. It's because I don't fucking trust people. You know what I mean? And that's something to bring home with you. So, no, I totally get it.
And so everybody that I grew up with that was a true friend is not alive anymore. Anybody that I knew was a friend of mine, a true friend, is dead. They have all passed away. And it all happened within, 2 of them died when I was really young, but 3 of them has died in the past year and a half. All right. And my father is probably the only person that I 100% trust. Can say anything I need to and can trust what he's going to say to me. And that's just probably because he's my dad, right?
Yeah.
And I won't give anybody else the opportunity to lie to me or misdirect me, because I've become good enough at looking at a person when they're speaking and reading their body language that I'll know if you're lying before the words come out of your mouth most of the time. And that is one benefit that I will carry with me, because that keeps things in a normal, upstanding life where you're not committing crimes and being a piece of garbage and you're living on the straight and narrow. You need that skill to keep the bullshit out of your way, how to wiggle around it. Because who wants complications when they're doing everything right?
Right.
I thought, I'm going to do everything the way you're supposed to. And when I learn how to do that, it'll be easy. Everybody doing the right thing is still trying to get at somebody because they're trying to advance themselves by doing the right thing in life.
Yeah.
They think that you should climb the ladder, right? Become successful, become this, whatever. That happens most of the time. What I have learned is by people stabbing you in the back, smiling in your face. And that's not the right way to be the right kind of person.
Oh no, I've told this story too. I was an operations manager for 5 years after I came home. It's the job that I left before I got into trucking, and that's another. I was on mental health meds and everything because it was just such a. There were people climbing the ranks that were looking for my position, looking for other, and they were taking credit for projects. I was stabbed in the back repeatedly. I get it. So you think you're doing the right thing, but there's still those snakes in the grass. And again, that's coming home and realizing, like, you get in that mindset in prison and you come home and you can spot that shit. You see it a mile away.
I tell my wife all the time, I learn so much with my eyes. That's why I'm quiet all the time.
Oh, my wife and I will be out constantly, and somebody will come up and introduce themselves, or we'll meet somebody, and I'm like, they're a fucking snake. They're a fucking snake. We're not. And she's like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, you can't explain it, but it's like being from somebody who, and I always use this term, my wife checks all the boxes on paper. She's got a college degree, going to school for a master's, got a great job, never been in trouble. You know what I mean? Like, she checks all the boxes. Never really been like a partier or anything, never been in the streets. And then you have somebody like me who's been to prison, been in the streets, and does not check any of the fucking boxes. And I'm like, when you know, like, and you get it. It's, you know what I mean?
I get it because it's just, I got the same story. I mean, it's crazy. You know, I'm like,
all right, Ryan. Well, listen, man, I'm going to wrap this up, but is there any last parting words? Anything you want to talk about? Anything else?
Listen, if you got to do any kind of change in your life, fucking do it. And if you don't get it right the first time, do it again, because that's how you learn everything. You're going to do something. You're going to kind of figure it out. You're going to do it again. And who knows, 4 or 5 times down the road, you might be an expert at it and you'll get it right. I don't know what to tell anybody to make them think I shouldn't do this no more. What you're doing eventually will make you think you shouldn't be doing this no more.
Yeah.
So we all need to go through things in life to make us who we are. Hopefully everybody can get a little education when they're starting out in life as an adult to make some, better advised choices. Can't stop people from doing things, but you can sure help them get through it the right way.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just want to see people have fun, but be good people. Like, there's no need to be a shitbag. There's just no need for it. And I think if people would focus more on themselves and the things that they truly love instead of whatever else is going on in the world, they would find themselves mentally in a better place with their life, their self, the people around them. People focus on everything. I'll focus on a couple things and make sure you got that and then go move on,
Yeah.
I didn't know how to do it, Chris, and I still don't think I know how to do it. But I know what I did yesterday worked, and I'm going to do it today. And then what I did today, I'm going to do tomorrow. And I'm just going to repeat that process. I think if I keep these beautiful women under my roof, they're going to keep me exactly where I'm at right now, right next to them. They're the blessings that I got. So
the women to keep you in line are definitely a positive. They definitely help. Mine keeps me in check constantly, but I don't feel you necessarily need a woman in your life. And honestly, a bad woman will send you in the complete opposite direction. They'll ruin everything in your path if you get with the wrong one. But I like that you focused on the next best thing. You keep doing what you did the day before if you were successful, because I've always been a major advocate of you just wake up the next fucking day and you do better than you did the day before. Even if it's just an extra smile, if it's an extra positive thought, if it's an extra anything, you just wake up the next day and you do a little better than you did the day before.
Did you read a book? What the hell was the name of it? Oh, The Way I Used to Live. Who wrote it? It was all over the prisons, and it was a book.
I don't think I ever read it.
It was designed for to inspire a little bit of hope in somebody who don't know how to do anything right. It was kind of hokey. It wasn't. I don't think the author was very articulate, but it did make sense. A lot of it. I got it somewhere. It's in a box, dude. I'll find it. I'll send you a picture of it. It's worth reading. I don't know if you're a reader. I'm not. It's the only book I have ever read from one cover to the next. It's only got 140 pages in it. But,
okay.
Yeah. I don't like to read, but it got a lot of stuff in there. A lot with what we're talking about now, and maybe even some other avenues of other types of things people should get away from. I'm not going to mention it. It was. I'm glad I read it. The only one I ever read. It's got good stuff in it.
All right. Well. All right, George. The George Young of Baby Powder. Hey man, I want to tell you, dude. After running into you, and then after you linking up with me on Facebook, and I kind of told you what was going on here, I have been pushing to get you on the show because I knew who you were from the start, and I know you've been taking strides to do better. So you were one of the guys that I mean, I've been all over your text messages for the last, I think, 2 weeks trying to get you on here. But I appreciate you as a person. I appreciate you as a friend. I think even in our worst days, you were always genuine. You were always, I always knew you were going to speak what was on your mind. And that's what I appreciated about you. You know what I mean? It wasn't you weren't a sugarcoater.
I'm glad you noticed that too, because there are people today who don't know that guy, and they're lucky.
Well, yeah, but I mean, but there's also that's not a bad trait to have. You know what I mean? You learn how to kind of keep some things at bay, but that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad characteristic.
I haven't had any finesse with it. It was coming out as blunt as I thought.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. And some of the shit that you used to say at the factory used to have me legitimately cracking up. So, but I appreciate you coming on, man. I think your story is great. I think what you're doing with your life is great. I think you got great things coming down the pipeline. I want to stay in contact with you. I think the wife and I are coming up in October. We're going to come at least get a night out, get a dinner with you and your wife. And hey, man, I appreciate you, dude. And I thank you, and keep doing what you're doing, brother.
Yeah. You too, Chris. I don't get on Facebook a lot, but I always see you on there, and that's how I knew you got it together. And I'm like, man, thank God there's at least one person I knew that went through that shit and got it right. I didn't think I was the only one. Yeah. But I didn't think I knew anyone who had done it. And here you are. It's good shit, man. It makes me do the right thing tomorrow, knowing that you're going to do the right thing tomorrow. You know, there's one more of me out there.
Yeah. And and overall, that's the whole purpose of this is there's strength in numbers. If I can get it out there that, you know, I have a library of individuals that have made, and I've got a whole book of guys that are doing great things with their lives. And I'm meeting more and more now that I'm starting to do this on a daily basis, and I'm putting it out there. There's not enough light shined on the fact that you can come home from prison and make a great life from yourself. Once you go through the system, they want you thinking you are a piece of shit, second-class citizen for the rest of your life, and that's not the case. I have a small army of individuals behind me that I plan on turning into a massive army of individuals that are doing great things with their lives. So, yeah, again, man, thank you. I appreciate you. I love you. We're gonna be in contact, and anybody out there that's going through some shit, again, I got links up on the website. Just stay tuned and subscribe. Talk to you guys later. See ya.
Anybody else out there that needs to talk to somebody, don't know how or don't know who to talk to, start with the windshield of your vehicle. Start telling your vehicle, the windshield, when you're driving to work, what's going on. Until you find somebody you can talk to, getting it out of you will help you tremendously. Even if you're not getting feedback, just, oh man, Chris, go ahead. I'm going to call you in a minute too.
No, that's fine. I was going to call you anyway. Guys, I love you. Stay tuned. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for tuning in. See ya.